Okay. Inshallah, we'll start. I believe there might be some more brothers coming, but we'll make a start. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. So we ended last lecture on the lessons from the Fijar War, which was before the actual Risala started, and there were a few things which we, Prophet ﷺ being a shepherd, and then Fijar Wars and Hilful Fudul, these were the things which we discussed. So the next couple of things, the two main stories are basically left. Jazakallah. From pre-prophethood. So, I mean, that's what we know about. And after that, because as you can imagine, there is not a lot of information which has been recorded pre-prophethood. Because, yes, Prophet ﷺ was one of the leaders of the Quraysh and everything, but he was not a prophet. He was just like any other man, and people started recording the Seerah quite late in his life, when they went into Medina, when they had peace, and when they had actually time to be able to do that. Before that, it was lots of persecution, and people didn't have much time to actually record anything. And who was left alive to tell the story, who has seen Prophet ﷺ at a young age? Very few people. So that's why we don't have a lot of information. So whatever we have, and the other thing is that whatever Allah wanted us to know, we believe that He has saved it for us, for the Ummah. Which is not saved, we have to believe that that was not beneficial for us. So whatever was beneficial, Allah has saved us for us. So even if we don't have too much information, we have enough information. So the next thing is, today, which we are going to discuss, is basically the marriage with Khadija radiallahu anha, and the rebuilding of the Kaaba. So these are the two main things which we are going to study today. The story goes, which is being narrated in Ibn Ishaq and other early books as well, that once, as we know, as we discussed, that Prophet ﷺ used to work as a shepherd, and he was working as a shepherd in the valley of Ajad, which we discussed last time. So Khadija's sister, elder sister, she had a herd of camels, which she needed some shepherds to look after and take them to graze and things like that. So she hired two people. One of them was Prophet ﷺ, and the other, according to one narration, his name was Hala. Hala nowadays is more of a girl's name, but at that time it was more of a boy's name. So these are the two people she hired, and they took the flock or herd to, and they looked after that, and then they finished their job. And when they finished the job, in the evening, the other person who was hired, he said to Prophet ﷺ, let's go and get our wages. We have done our job. Let's go and get our wages. So Prophet ﷺ said, I feel too shy to go and meet a woman who is not my relative. So I feel shy. Why don't you just take the wages for me as well? So I feel shy. I don't like to go and meet any woman who's not my relative. So why don't you just go and take my wages as well? So, it's Allah's qadar. So what happened is that when the guy came to take his wages from Khadija's sister, Khadija was there at the time, and the guy came and he said, I'm here for my wages. So Khadija's sister asked, where is Muhammad? He was with you. Why didn't he come to collect his wages? And he said, well, he felt very shy, so that's why he didn't come. So he asked me, can I take the wages? And Khadija's sister started praising him, that I have not seen any man who is more shy, honorable, noble, and chaste in his interaction than Muhammad. So when he was praised, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was praised in such a beautiful manner, it says, Ibn Ishaq, it's narrated that there was something entered in the heart of Khadija. So she started feeling some feeling about Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that was the first time she heard about him, and in such a good manner that she felt something. So now a little bit about Khadija. Khadija was twice married before Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So from the first marriage, she had a son, and I think his name was Hala as well, if I'm not wrong. Who and then she was married to another guy after that, second time. He was a very wealthy man. When he died, they didn't had any children from the second marriage, and from so Khadija's second husband, he didn't had any brothers or any other relatives who would take up the inheritance. So as we have to remember that in that time there was no inheritance for the women. So the male will take up all the inheritance. So if you die, your male relative will take up whatever you're leaving. But because he left quite a lot of wealth, and he didn't had any other relative, male relative, close relative, to take that wealth away, so Khadija ended up inheriting a lot of money. So she was a wealthy woman. She was the wealthiest woman of Mecca. Not the wealthiest person, but the wealthiest woman of Mecca. And then she grew that wealth by investing in those trade routes which we keep talking about. Rehlat ash-Shita'i was safe. So we keep talking about those two journeys, up north and down south, and she started investing in those trade journeys, and she would get some profits from it. So and her wealth started to grow. So she was a wealthy woman. With every time she sent her merchandise on the trade journey, she would never get a lot of profit. She will get some profit. Obviously, people who are taking that, they would take the major share themselves and just give a little bit to her. So because she heard so much good about Prophet from her sister, and that she's decided to send Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam this time to take her merchandise on that trade route. So one of the servants, he accompanied Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His name was Seerah. So Seerah accompanied on the journey to Syria. So they were going to Syria. So he was, and in one of the narrations it's mentioned that there was cloud covering, and he saw that there is always a cloud covering him. I mean, this is something which is mentioned in some narrations. The other narration doesn't mention, so we don't know. But there's lots of other narrations in which it is said that
you know what the merchandise was?
It was just goods they would buy from Mecca, and then they would take it to Syria. They sell it there. Then they will buy some goods from Syria, bring it back. So different things. So there was not one thing. So they will buy things from one place, will take it to the other place, sell them. Then on their way back, they will buy stuff from there, bring it back. And when the Hujjaj are coming to Mecca, they will... Yeah, import, export, yeah. So
you usually get from Yemen and Abbasia, Ethiopia, and things.
Yeah.
To Yemen, come to Mecca, and then they take it to Sham.
Yeah, and then they will buy from Sham. And you have to remember that Mecca was like a center point where all the Hujjaj were coming. So everybody was coming to on Hajj on Mecca. So that's why they had a center where a lot of people are coming, and they can sell and buy things from there.
But they ride on camels and horses, or just camels?
Yeah, ride camels, horses, something like, or on foot, because they were like big caravans. It was not one person traveling, so they were always used to travel in caravans. So like 10, 15 people would travel together. Otherwise, you have to remember that there's no law, so you are always in a danger of somebody coming and stealing your stuff. So you have to travel in groups. So they would make a little group and will travel in groups, in little groups.
And who mentions this cloud or
The
protecting
Maysara, Maysara, the
from the shade? Maysara does narrates it to Khadija Islam or
yeah.
what?
So the Maysara, when he came back, he mentioned that there was always a cloud covering Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was the
Some say I
servant.
think it was an angels were covering him from two angels were trying to cover him from the shade as well.
They were not visible. Maybe there were angels, but they were not visible angels. So the people were not seeing the angels.
Yeah.
They were seeing probably a cloud.
The cloud also mentioned last week when you
Yeah,
were talking about
the
Buhaira.
Buhaira, yes.
Oh, he saw the cloud and then
Yeah.
he said this is some of the importance to
Yeah.
the caravan.
So I mean, this is the mentioning of the cloud after the prophethood. Yes, it's been mentioned a lot of times, but before the prophethood, it's been mentioned few times. So after the prophethood, a lot of narrations are there, and he always had that cloud covering him. But before that, it's not mentioned a lot, but it's mentioned in narration. So when he came back, he actually made a lot of profit and gave Khadija a lot more profit than anyone has given before. So she knew that he's very honorable and he's very honest. So that's another time when again she started feeling some feeling about Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's completely permissible. There's nothing haram in that. So she mentioned it to one of her servants, another old lady. Her name was Nafisa. Nafisa was her name. So she mentioned it to Nafisa that I've got this feeling about Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Either she was a friend or an old servant of Khadija. So Nafisa said, leave it with me, I will do something, I will sort it out. So Nafisa went to see Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and mentioned, well, you are a young man, you are a very eligible bachelor because you are the grandson of Abdul Muttalib, and you have to remember Abdul Muttalib, we keep talking about him because he's the legend in Arabs of the time. So he is his grandson, so he's got the best lineage you can get, and lineage was the big thing about of that people. So she said, well, you are from the best of the lineage, you are the grandson of Abdul Muttalib, why don't you get married? And Prophet ﷺ said, and who will marry me? I'm a poor shepherd of Mecca, who will marry me? And she said, what about Khadija? What if Khadija wants to marry you? And he didn't say yes or no, but he said, well, why would she marry me? And that's where it ends. But he didn't say no. So Nafisa knew that he's interested. So she went back, and there was some messages from the both sides going on for about 3 months, and it's mentioned in Ibn Ishaq. I think it was in Safar, I think the month of Safar, when the marriage took place. Safar, 3 months after he came back from the journey. So what happened is that when both parties knew that they want to get married, Prophet ﷺ sent Abu Talib to Khadija's uncle, and Abu Talib proposed Prophet ﷺ for Khadija's hand to his uncle, that I have got my son, and they always talk about lineage. He's got the best of the lineage. He's an honorable man, and he wants to marry your niece, the lady Khadija, for 12 uqiyah, which is a small amount of silver, probably equivalent to, you can say, about 400 pounds. So not like a token money, but not a lot of money either. So it's like decent amount. But you have to remember that Prophet ﷺ was not a wealthy man. He was a shepherd. He just had one trade journey in which he obviously made some money because they used to share profit. So that's how it used to work.
How old was the Prophet? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam?
How old was he? 25.
How old was she?
We're going to discuss that. So that's another controversy which
After the age of a woman.
You can ask her date of birth.
Or wait.
Very clever.
so the Prophet Abu Talib went, he said this, no, the uncle of the Khadija said, this is a young man who cannot be refused, so we accept the proposal, so they got married. There is another second version of the story, which, to be honest, it's not a nice story, but if it was any other place, like in a Muslim country, then you can just ignore it. But it is present in our Islamic books, so it's not coming from somewhere else. So, and non-Muslims, they take a field trip with it. So that's why I have to mention it, so that you know that it's not true, and somebody brings it up, that you can defend it. In that story, basically, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just the gist of it is that his Khadija's father was still alive, and he initially refused the marriage proposal. So they made him drunk, and then while he was drunk and he was not really in his senses, they told him that the marriage is happening, and the marriage happened, and when he got sober, the marriage has already happened, so he couldn't do anything. So that's the story basically. And some obscure books, it is present in our traditions.
In Islam, if somebody divorces or marry while drunk, it's valid.
Yeah.
So he shouldn't be drunk. But if he marries his daughter while drunk to you, it's invalid.
Yeah.
Or if he divorces his wife while drunk, it is also valid.
Yeah. Yeah, but it means we are talking about pre-Islam at the moment. So, but it means it means that they tricked him into getting her married, which is actually a fabrication, which is a fabricated story. The reason why there's scholars who have actually, not just because we don't like it, they have actually academically critiqued it, and they said, one of the scholars, Al-Waqidi, which we know, a big scholar, he said that this father of Khadija was already dead by the time she married Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So, and it was the uncle, and Ibn Ishaq has mentioned the same thing. It was her uncle who married Khadija to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So there was no father to be drunk or anything. So that's just a fabrication. Maybe somebody has heard a similar story for somebody else, and he got confused, and he narrated it, and people have written in the books, and we still got that. So, but it's a fabrication. So none of this happened. So Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as we said, he was 25 years old. Now the question comes: how old was Khadija? Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys. So what's the common, everybody kind of known figure?
42. She's in her 40s.
40,
40s.
40, 42. That's everybody is saying the same amount. So 40 is the most common, and I don't know why it is, but seems to be stuck with the age with Khadija. It's not true actually. There is mention about 40, but one scholar has mentioned 40, but most of the scholars, especially Al-Waqidi, he reported that Khadija died when she was in her early 50s. Okay, so why we are saying that that's not true? Because Khadija, if she died when she was 50, 52, or in that early 50s, how many children she had?
One.
With Prophet? No.
From the previous one.
No, from Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam,
Oh.
with Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
No.
And you have to remember all the children which Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had were with Khadija. None of the other wives had any kids. So how many kids Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had?
4.
Not 4. I mean, that's again, it shows that how much we need to learn.
I asked one of the class today who Ali married,
Mm.
and they didn't know.
No. So, yeah.
I said,
Subhanallah.
that's proof that none of you is seeing.
Abdullah was one of his sons who passed away.
Yes.
Fatima his
Daughter.
the daughter, yeah, which was married to Ali, yeah.
those are the two, I think.
Yeah.
There were
Some
six.
they'll pass away. Yeah.
So
Qasim,
total
Abdullah,
7 children, but 6 of them were with Khadija radiallahu anha, and one with Sayyidina Maria, who was one of the slaves of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So what are the names?
So what's the name? Okay, so let's do it. Anyone else want to try? So the first one was a son, and his name was Qasim. Okay, so the first born was a son. His name was Qasim, and Qasim died when it's narrated that when the kids are at the age of when they start riding camels. So about 7-8 years. So he was,
All of the boys passed away, didn't they?
and we will come to that as well. We'll discuss that. There's a hadith which is not very common, but it's a strong, which is hadith, very interesting hadith, which I will bring it, inshallah. So, so first one was Al-Qasim, then second one is Zainab, then Ruqayya, then Kulthum, then Fatima, so 4 daughters after that, and the last one is Abdullah. Okay. Then some narration says 8 children, so, but majority says 6. So there are 2 names, further names, At-Tahir and At-Tayyib. But majority narration says 6. So how can we reconcile? It seems like At-Tahir and At-Tayyib were the laqabs of Abdullah. So Abdullah was also called as At-Tahir and At-Tayyib, but there were no 2 other kids named as At-Tahir and At-Tayyib. So basically there were 6 children. So we know that between the 2 child there would be going to be at least 1 year gap, maybe 1.5, because you don't get pregnant if somebody is breastfeeding, and at that time everybody was breastfeeding. So let's put it like 1.5, 2 years. So if she had 6 kids, so that will come up to about 12 years. So if she died straight after giving the birth of the last child, she will just be in her early 50s, which doesn't really make sense, because she was married for quite a number of years with Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So age of 40 doesn't fit. And the other thing is, medically speaking, that's not an age where you will have too many kids, because if a lady who hasn't had a lot of kids at a younger age, their menopause will come early, and between 45 and 50, that's the age of menopause. Most of the women will have menopause during that age. So you can't really have 6 kids if she was 40 years old. So that doesn't fit with this age. Then there are other scholars who actually have got different, like Hisham al-Qalbi is another big authority, and he said that she was 28 years old. And Al-Hakim and Ibn Ishaq, they also said that she was 28 years old. So majority opinion is that she was 28 years old. Just one scholar has said 40, which is, in terms of his status as a historian and a scholar of the Seerah, is lower than the other scholars, and there's more number of scholars which are telling us 28. So that seems to be the majority and the correct opinion. And medically speaking, that fits as well.
So how come everybody's saying 14?
Yeah, I don't know. Because as we discussed with 12th of Rabiul Awwal, because Ibn Ishaq said 12th of Rabiul Awwal, and he's a big kind of authority, considered as authority in Seerah. And the first time Mawlud happened was on 12th of Rabiul Awwal, so it kind of gets stuck. But there are other opinions which, academically speaking, seems to have more weight, because 12th of Rabiul Awwal has got no chains, but then there are chains for the other and big names like Jafar, who's the progeny of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was one of the kids of one of the descendant of Imam Hussein. So we discussed that in detail. So there are other dates which seems to be, academically speaking, more stronger than the 12th, but 12th seems to be more common.
But her previous 2 marriages, does that kind of give some kind of indication how long she was married in those, and what was the average age of marriage?
Yeah, I mean, they used to marry quite young.
Yeah, I was going to
So
say
they
that
used to
first
marry
marriage
quite
was-
young.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it seems like she was married at a younger age. But means 28, we know that from the earliest of the sources. And Ibn Ishaq, we keep on talking about Ibn Ishaq. Ibn Ishaq is considered the authority when it comes to Seerah, and he mentioned 28. And there are lots of other scholars who have mentioned 28. But it seems like for whatever reason, 40 seems to be the more kind of a more prominent and famous age in our era. Maybe it's our lack of knowledge. I don't know, but it's not seems to be the correct
But
one.
I think the point is that has built that story. She was older than him.
Yeah.
Therefore, they've given a more significant age to say, look, she was older than him.
Mm.
Whereas just the fact that she's 3-4 years older than him, considering how young women would have married at 14
Yeah.
or 15, was still older in that sense.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was
yeah. I mean, people used to marry very young, and someone who's not been married before. So, and he could have.
Sorry,
No,
go back
sorry.
a little bit. I know you said someone else went to ask for give a proposal to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. She didn't directly.
No,
Proposed to marry.
no. She didn't go to Nafisa, who was one of the either a friend or one of the servants. She took kind of the proposal indirectly, not directly. She didn't say that Khadija wants to marry you. She went and said, "Why don't you get married? You are a very eligible bachelor of Mecca, and you should get married now." And he said, "Who would marry a poor shepherd like me?" And she said, "What about Khadija? What if Khadija wants to marry you?" So that kind of a proposal.
So they were married, what, 24 years then?
Yes. So they were married for quite a number of years, about 25 years. So,
Do we know the story? What happened to the other
Which
five?
makes sense because then she'd be 65 when she passed.
yeah, and which is not the case. So she passed away in her early 50s.
Do you know the background of the other five children who passed away? What ages were they?
The daughters, they all got to adulthood. Apart from Fatima, they all passed away in the life of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Fatima passed away just after Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam passed away himself, and the sons, they all passed away at a very young age. Qasim was the oldest of the sons in terms of the age when he passed away. He was about 7-8 years. The other two were like toddlers, like 18 months or so.
But, you've gone into to this, when you're talking about the age, and you mentioned the science and so on, what to prove that she didn't die at that age. But wouldn't an easier way to prove it based on when she died, the Amal Huzn, working backwards to...
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
So that would have been another way to get when... Because we would have known the Prophet ﷺ's age at that time, and then worked backwards from the year she died.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So that's what that was my first point. That's why it was my first point. Al-Waqidi said that she died in 50,
Yeah.
and they were married for about 25 years. So
Yeah.
can't be.
So
It can't be right
Yeah.
that she was 40 when she got married. So that's the first
So
point.
there's a range of evidence.
So yeah, so it was, and then there are other evidences as well. So Ibn Kathir, who is the famous historian, Al-Bayhaqi, they are big names. So they all agreed that she was 28 years old. So the Prophet ﷺ, again, we said that she had 6 children, and academically speaking, from the medical side of things, it doesn't fit that she was 40. So, so what have we learned so far? It's important to have honesty and good etiquettes, because that's the thing which made Khadija kind of had a feeling about him. Just because he had good etiquettes and he was shy, he didn't want to go. So if he was shy to go and speak to the women, then Khadija knew that he is not a lustful man. He is someone who she can trust. It also shows the intelligence of Khadija, because Khadija was a single lady, and she knew that in that time there was no kind of concept of having a single lady living. So they would always be married because there was no businesswomen or things like that. So you have to, somebody has to look after you, and if you have some wealth, you need somebody to look after that as well. So she was an intelligent woman. She could sense that this is the right person for me. Again, the Prophet ﷺ needed support and comfort for his future mission, as there's a saying goes that behind every successful man there is a hand of a woman, which is quite true. Means we do need some backing. We can be very macho and everything in the public, but you need that comforting presence in your own environment. And Khadija did provide that for Prophet ﷺ. The other thing is the blessings of Khadija are just too numerous to mention. Some of them I can mention, but she was the first to believe in Prophet ﷺ. She comforted him as soon as the revelation began. When Prophet ﷺ came back, he was quite scared, and he didn't know what happened with me. There is a narration which says that I'm worried about my brain, like maybe I'm worried about myself. That's the narration says, like maybe I'm losing my brain or something, because I'm seeing things and I'm feeling things, and somebody like an angel came and squeezed me and talked to me. It's all quite strange for anybody, and he was a human being, so it was quite strange for him as well. And again, it shows her intelligence. What she said, that you are the best human being I have seen. You never lie. You look after your kin, and you are honest. So Allah will never put you into any hardship. And then she took him to Waraka ibn Nawfal, which we studied that, and Waraka was the one who told that this is the angel and you are a prophet.
Sorry.
Okay.
Was she a believer in some Christianity or something before that, or what?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah. So we can call probably a Hanif. She might be a Hanif. She might be a pagan, but we don't know.
Okay.
There is nothing mentioned. But she was definitely a first believer. Because she believed in her husband straight away.
So the ayah in Surah An-Nur, الطيبات للطيبين والطيبون للطيبات.
Yeah.
So Allah wouldn't let Muhammad marry somebody, but she was pure. But
Yeah.
this is what the ayah said, the pure to the pure.
Pures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is when they attack Aisha, they negated the Quran.
Mm.
Because Aisha is pure.
Mm.
Because Allah wouldn't let Muhammad marry somebody
who's
who's
unfair. Yeah.
and the
fair
same
enough.
with Khadija, that's what
Yeah.
they say.
Yeah. Means she could be a Hanif. We don't know, but it's not mentioned. We don't know. But she was a very noble lady, and she was a very chasteful lady, so that's for sure. But in terms of Aqidah, what was her Aqidah, we don't know. But she was the first Muslim in terms of men and women who, if you consider all of them, she is the first Muslim. Because she believed in him straight away. When he didn't know himself what's going on, she believed in him. And she took him to Waraka ibn Nawfal.
Logically, if he had doubts about his own sanity,
Yeah.
and obviously them being Arabs and being very proud, he's not really going to share that with anybody other than his wife.
Yeah, so...
And she's obviously comforted him and
Yeah.
said, no,
you're
you're not losing your mind.
Yeah.
If that's what you believe, it's the truth.
Yeah, and she took him to Waraka, and that's why it says that Waraka is the first male who believed, and as a whole, from the whole ummah, male and female, Khadija is the
Probably
first
one of
Muslim.
the first elderly.
Yeah, but means because she took him straight to
Because
Waraka.
he died straight after that, so he didn't live long.
Yeah. So, but he was the Muslim because he believed in him straight away. But there was no kalima or anything to say, but he believed that. He said, yes, I believe you are a prophet, and this entity which you saw is a namus which has come to previous prophets as well. So he believed in him straight away. So he's a Muslim.
And they would force you out.
Yeah,
Of your
the whole.
And obviously, if somebody has been a working for you and you trust him fully to go and sell your goods and give you a lot of profit back, and hence the name Al-Amin, the
Yeah,
trustworthy
Sadiq
one.
and Amin, yeah.
And if you trust somebody fully and then somebody builds up
Comes.
all that trust, then they
Yeah.
tell you this, obviously.
Yeah, you're going to
Yeah.
believe, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah. So, and she took to see Waraka ibn Nawfal, as I said, and she was the only whom Jibril would come in the household. So she was the only.
Sorry, I have to challenge that point.
Which part?
Because all the other Arabs knew he was Al-Amin, but when he brought the message, they said no. So
Yeah.
they still gave him the gold
Yeah,
to
yeah.
keep.
Yeah,
So
I agree with you.
Like sometimes you believe in someone, but then they say something and you still not believe. So
Yeah,
the
I
rest
agree.
of the Arabs,
I agree
Allah,
with-
Allah said to him,
Yeah.
فإنهم لا يكذبونك ولكن الذين كفروا بآيات الله يجحدون. So I'm not telling you you are a liar,
Yeah.
but they don't want the
Yeah.
signs of Allah.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you on that point. Yes, the rest of the Arab knew about Sadiq and Amin, and when he went to Safa and he said, have you ever saw me lying, and all of that story, which we will come to that, inshallah. But then they didn't believe. But means Khadija is a different person, because she's a wife and she's the comforter, and she knows him better than anybody else, because your wife knows you better than anybody else. So that's and
Could
we
you
were
just
just
explain the last point about Angel Jibreel?
yeah. So we were just so Jibril would never go to any other. So okay, so the only wife who he entered the house when she was there was Khadija, and Khadija once Khadija was in the house and Jibril came, and Jibril said, Subhanallah. This is Jibreel, and he's saying, Allah's salam on you. So Allah sent salam with Jibreel on Khadija. So he said, Khadija, this is Jibreel, and he brought Allah's salam to you. And then again it shows, sorry, imagine somebody, what else do I have to tell you about the blessing of Khadija, that Allah is sending salam on Khadija straight, directly. Khadija, and now look at the intelligence of Khadija, that she didn't really say wa alaikum salam ya Allah, because you can't really say salam back to Allah. You can't say wa alaikum salam ya Allah. So what she answered is, inna Allah huwa salam, that it's Allah is salam. So Allah himself is salam. So you can't really send back salam to Allah. Allah is salam, because we send salam. When we say salam, we are actually sending salam, like we are sending peace from the Allah to whoever we are saying salam to. So you can't really say salam to Allah. You can't really do that. So you can't say salam back to Allah. So she knew that. So her theology was so strong. So she said, Inna Allahu huwa salam. So it's Allah is salam, and wa ala salamun ala Jibreel wa salamun ala alayka ya Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she said that, and salam on you Jibreel, and salam on Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. But that shows her intelligence, her faith, and her belief, and how strong her belief was. That she understood straight away.
I'll say that Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam fahayyina rabbana bis salam. So there's the story Sha'rawi mentioned that to prove that he was Jibreel, an angel, when he came, she said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tell me, I will show my neck and things. If he stays there, then he is not an angel. But if he turns away, then he is. So when she uncovered her neck and Jibreel turned away, he wouldn't see her.
Yeah.
So she said he must be an angel,
Angel.
not a devil.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Allah manta salam wa minka salam?
Allah is the salam,
Oh, yeah.
peace, and from him peace comes. Yeah. فحينا ربنا بالسلام, greet us with the salam, and أدخلنا الجنة, enter us Jannah, the house of peace. Dar
So
salam.
basically, we can't really say back salam to Allah. So Allah is the salam, which comes to everybody. So Allah is the peace which we ask for. So we can't really send peace back to Allah.
We went
Does
to
that
a
make sense?
Jewish synagogue for a service in Jerusalem. We were taken there and they were singing a hymn. And in the middle of the hymn, Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam came. They were singing that just like Muslims recite sometimes loudly in a naat as well. And I'm thinking, what's this? How come this is in their book?
Okay,
That's what they say.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
In Arabic.
Yeah, in Arabic. Well, it was written in English, but that bit was in a transliteration. Exactly, Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam. And you know,
It's a
Sister
hadith.
Rihanna was
This
with
is a
us, and I said,
hadith.
look, what's this is here.
Yes, a hadith and فحينا ربنا والسلام وادخلنا الجنة. It's a hadith, full hadith.
So there's another story about that. That Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha, who's one of the most beloved wives of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she said that she never saw Khadija, by the way. So she was too young, and Khadija has already passed away when she grew up, and so she never saw Khadija. And even then she said that I was never jealous of any of Prophet's wives as I was jealous of Khadija, because of the love which Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had for Khadija. And how it shows that, I mean, even Khadija has passed away way after that. In Medina, when he used to get any gifts or meat or anything, he would send those to Khadija's friends, for people who Khadija used to have friendship with. So he would send those gifts or and meat to those people. And once Khadija's older sister, she came, and she was outside the house, and just by listening to the footstep of the older sister, he started having such an emotion on his face, as Aisha is mentioning. It's a hadith narrated by Aisha, that I saw such an emotion on Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's face just by listening to the footstep, because that remembered the footstep of the Khadija's sister, remembered him of Khadija herself, and that brought back all those memories and the pain which he was feeling for not having Khadija with him anymore, and that made him very emotional. And once she mentioned that he was mentioning something about Khadija, and she said, and what a wife could say, basically that, O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for how long you are going to, it's not a very nice word, but I will just say, for how long you are going to mention that old toothless lady of Quraysh, when Allah has given you with a fertile ground. Like she was basically saying that I'm a young woman, and Allah has blessed you with a young woman. For how long you will keep remembering that old lady? Obviously she didn't knew. And Prophet ﷺ answered, Wallahi, Allah has not blessed me with something better, because you have to remember, she believed in me when all of you rejected me, and she helped me when everybody persecuted me, and Allah blessed me with kids only through Khadija, when he didn't bless me with any kids through any of my other wives. So basically she learned her lesson, and she's in the
She
next.
married me when I was single.
Yeah.
While you married me when I was
well,
30.
yeah. So basically, she learned her lesson, and she said in the narration, she said that I never said anything about Khadija in my life after that. So, so he got irritated. So that's all the blessings of the Khadija.
When Jibril came to the household, did he come as a person form? Or
Most of the time he came as a person. Only 2 times he came in his original form, is initially when he came with the first revelation, and then the second time when he took him into Mi'raj. So according to narrations, that's the only 2 times when Prophet ﷺ saw him in his original form, which is that he was blocking the whole horizon, and he was filling the whole space, and he had about 600 wings, and so, but most of the time he would come as a human person, as a human being. There was a Sahabi named Dihya, who he would take the shape of Dihya, uh, Prophet Jibreel will take the shape of Dihya. But obviously Prophet would know.
But the other people will not see him.
And sometimes they have seen him, like
They
the
don't know it
hadith.
before. They didn't know when they saw him.
Yeah, they didn't knew. Yeah, they didn't knew. Like hadith Jibreel was a famous hadith when Jibreel came and sat with the Prophet ﷺ, but and everybody, all the Sahaba saw, and when he left, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Do you know who he was?" And they said no, and he said he was Jibreel and he was teaching you your deen. So I mean, other people have seen Jibreel as well, but not in his original form as a human being.
But Khadija used to see him all the time when he used to.
Azusa's son?
No, Khadija.
Khadija, no, not all the time.
Not all the time.
No.
Okay. Is Jibreel the only angel who can fill up the horizon? Or is it
Probably many more, because Allah has created very big angels, and we know that he's the holiest of them. So he's like the top angel, and then there are other angels as well, which we don't know much about them. Okay. So maybe there are others as
In
well.
Mi'raj, he saw
Many more, yeah.
Ridwan.
Yeah,
and Malik.
Ridwan and Malik and the ones who are carrying the throne. So he saw many more, but he didn't describe them to us, so we don't know much about them. Would you mind if we continue for a bit longer, because we're taking a bit long, or you want to finish? I don't mind either way.
Carry on, another 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. Okay, we'll stop because it won't finish in 5 minutes. So.
Well, it's up to you. I mean, I'm fine.
No, it won't finish because the other story was building of the Kaaba.
You probably will talk less next time.
So, no, that's all right. That's no, I like
You
actually.
decide, someone-
No, absolutely. I like actually having some question answer, some interaction, because it makes it more interactive. It doesn't make it boring.
If
So
you're going to talk about the Kaaba, that's quite significant, isn't it?
yeah, so
it's
we'll
probably
talk about next
worth-
next week. Okay.
Topical.
Yeah. So let's finish it here. Let's see. Any questions?